Hello everyone and welcome back to Starship Traveller. This is the final episode. We are done adventuring. Our crew is coercing us into flying back to our own universe. And to be fair, we have visited a fair number of friendly, hostile and neutral planets. So that I believe we have completed our mission. The only question is whether we can make it back home. And let's see what options we have to choose from. I believe we have gathered enough information, so let's see if that is truly the case. We call all our section heads to the briefing room and announce that we believe we have the space and time coordinates for a likely black hole. If our velocity and timing are right, we ought to be able to pass through this black hole, which may be the Celsium void, and emerge in Earth's universe. So far so good, here's to hoping. We return to the bridge and prepare for the journey, setting off towards our black hole. We organize a list of potential space warps which might lead home. We have two options to choose from, or we could choose one randomly, but we're not going to do that. We are quite confident that I. Abale's recommendation of the space warp at sector 159 is correct. I. Abale's Porter experiments were incredibly advanced. Or we confirm the coordinates we received at planet Malini and consider investigating potential space-time anomalies at sector 83. I think this is a very easy choice to make. Clearly I. Abale's technology is the correct one here. After all, he found a true gateway between our universes, so I'm 100% sure his information is correct. We are not even going to waste time with the misguided attempt at Sector 83 that the Malinites came up with. We are going to travel to the black hole at Sector 159. Now we have worked out where to travel, we need to work out when to be there. We organize a list of potential times a space warp could occur, and once again we have two options to choose from. Remembering our travels to planet Teriel 6 just very recently, we think back to our encounter with the strange inhabitants there. Luff, one of the children with advanced intelligence, was quite sure that Stardate 21 was correct, or additionally, we remember the bizarre incident involving the living corpse on the strange planet of Trax. It supplied us with information recommending that we travel to Stardate 45. Right, that was the one that we picked up the newspaper and we never got translated. By the way, if you go on another path, it does get translated. And that's where we experienced severe hallucinations. Now, I'm not going to follow advice told us by hallucinations, so this one is scratched off the list. I don't know if Luff was right, I hope he was, or his friend rather, but this one is a no-go, and we don't have any other lead to go on, so we are going to have to trust Luff and see if his info was correct. Here's to hoping, let's cross our fingers. With time and coordinates locked in, we set a course for what we hope will be the way home. Set course. We set course and arrive at the black hole, dropping out of warp speed some distance from it. Carefully planning our angle of entry and our velocity, we head into the dark void. We feel the Sylvana being taken by the immense gravitational force and order all crew to strap themselves in. Suddenly, the ship lurches forward and begins to speed up. The G-force is unbearable. We, along with the rest of our crew, pass out. Whew. We regain consciousness and look around to find that other crew members are doing the same. We instruct our navigation officer to report on our position and switch the screen to visual. As the picture clears, we can see space in front of us. Is this our own universe? In the distance, we can just make out a large familiar-looking object. Our communications officer shouts excitedly, "Captain, I'm picking up a signal coming from somewhere ahead of us. They claim to be substation Einstein." I think we have made it. Switching the message to visual, we are soon able to confirm that the message is indeed coming from one of our own substations. We have made it through the black hole and back into our own universe. As Snowflake curls up and falls asleep in a corner, the crew gather round to congratulate us. We have successfully guided the Sylvana and its crew, sans Peter, safely home. Okay, well, we managed to explore that parallel universe, quite a lot of it, and get back home safe and sound, most of us. Our adventure over, we sigh a great sigh of relief, and let us reflect on the journey we just took. First of all, let's see a map. We started out with meeting the Ganzigites, who we scared off with an eagle released at them. That was fun. Then we met a few aliens on 2 different planets around the same star, Magnus. Then, if you recall, we had our one and only space battle against a meteor storm. And after that, we flew to a star cluster and we found an aquatic planet, which we did not beam down to because we would have had no way of beaming back up. And we hunted for food, hunted squin on the jungle planet to feed our crew, and our poor crew has been subsisting on squin meat ever since then, and the little vegetation we cut down, I guess. Then we went to Kleba, where we cured some of the villagers and solved their weather problem. I'm very proud and happy for that. Then we visited the grey planet with the poisonous atmosphere. Then Jolson 3, which is the home planet of Abale, and their very advanced civilization. Afterwards, we went to the volcanic planet, where we unfortunately lost our faithful comrade Pete. Then we had our Sylvana fixed up in the space station. Quite recently, we went to Malini, defeated the Manslayer robot in the arena during the contests, and in exchange we were set free. Then we went to the black planet, the metallic surface. There was nothing of interest there. Finally to Teriel 6, where we met Luff and his helpful companions. And with the help of Teriel 6 and Jolson 3, so Luff and Abale, we have successfully come back home. The Sylvana is at maximum stat levels, as well as all of the crew. Science of ourselves, Captain Slayer, Science Officer Tommy B, Medical Officer Diane, Engineering Officer Sultan, Security Officer Andy, and First Guard Steve. Unfortunately, we suffered an egregious casualty with Second Guard Pete. May he rest in peace. Our ship's cat Snowflake and our dumb ensign Doodoo are all safe aboard. And we have gathered a whole lot of information and a few useful items as well, which we take home and can boast with to the Admiral. This is the end of our adventure. I'd say this was extremely successful, except for that one death. We visited every planet we have come across, except for the aquatic planet, and we have had quite a few adventures. I thank you all for joining me on this adventure. And now I would like to say a few words about the game book itself. This 4th game book in the series is the first one that has a sci-fi setting, and only 7, or rather 6.5 books take place in space. The half book is framed. It starts and ends in the same fantasy setting as most of the other game books do, including all 3 that we have already played through. This was not a very successful one. In fact, it's one that is looked on very unfavorably by the fans. So Starship Traveller is not fondly remembered in general. So what do I think about this? Let's start with the good. I think most of the planets, if not all of them, are very interesting. The aquatic planet is instant death, by the way, and we have seen more than half of the encounters of the planets that there are. This was the longest path one can take through the universe, through this universe, that if you want to win the game. There are still quite a few very interesting encounters that we had to skip, either because we were mandated to do so, but the great thing, or because that would have yielded fewer planetary visits, fewer adventures. And on the other hand, I think they are really interesting. The Ganzi guides can make a return, and you can scare them away with the eagle once again. By the way, it's really funny. We skipped Cool Matter, which is one of the most interesting planets, but we got 3 adventures in exchange, so that's the reason. And I think that most, if not all, of these planets are very well designed. They're thought-provoking and fun, and in general, it's really interesting to visit them. That's really all there is for the positives, and unfortunately this book has a lot of negatives. First of all, I don't think that science fiction is well suited for fighting fantasy for game books, or vice versa. Game books are not really a good format for science fiction, because unlike in fantasy settings, in science fiction you don't get to make that many meaningful choices constantly. Usually you really have to come up with contrived ideas to make a game book worthwhile. That's why they discontinued it after a couple of tries. There are a couple of ones that are fondly remembered, but not this one. And the whole structure of this adventure is really weird. You can skip everything and get to the end and die, by the way, because you haven't found any of the data that you were required to do so. So you can literally click through this game in a couple of seconds. If you don't beam down to any of the planets and just keep flying ahead, then you can avoid all kinds of contact with anything. So you can play the game empty. And what that means is that all of the content is optional, and once you know which ones are the correct ones, you can just go to those ones that you are interested in. And actually you can skip the whole first half of this adventure, of this game book. Kleba is the first planet I'd recommend visiting. Anything that comes before is non-essential. You only need to visit actually Jolson 3, so Ayabale and Luff, Teriel 6. Anything else is just optional. And so if you think about it this way, we had one space battle, and we had only a handful of offline planet side battles. If you play it on the optimal path, then not only do you have 0, and I really mean 0 battles, but you will not even have many dice rolls. In fact, the optimal playthrough has 1 dice roll when you go to the Rain Lord and you obtain his compass, and you can pass the game with literally 1 skill check and nothing else. The physical book you can pass without it, even that, if you know the labyrinth well of the portal that Ayabale sends you through, then you can legit finish the game book without touching dice at all. And if you compare this with all those requirements at the beginning of the game, that we had to throw so many dice to get started, that becomes ridiculous. So this is a real disparity. You are forced, or well, you're supposed to set up all your crew and the ship and name all these characters, etc., roll the dice, and in reality you don't need them. So, for instance, we definitely don't need three soldiers, as you have seen. One or two rather would have sufficed. Um, on the other hand, you would think that wow, this must be a really easy game book, and it's not. I dare you to complete this successfully without any online help, any input whatsoever. It's a really difficult one. The two planets that we have visited, you might not have felt it, but they're pretty well hidden, and these so getting to them is not at all self-explanatory, and it even if you do, even if you well, you have to find both of these planets, and so finding one of them is not the key to success. So, but even if you do find both of them, you still have no idea of knowing that you need to choose this combination precisely in order to win the game. So it's a complete random. There is no indication which one is the correct answer. I mean, IABL its technology is described as the best, so I guess there is a little bit of indication, but Love's story is not different from most of the other ones that you can find for the star date. So those are all really significant negatives, but I think the real big issue of this book, and the one that truly kills it in my opinion, is that it should have been much longer, but that was impossible to do so, obviously. So I don't know if you've noticed, but the entries are much longer on average than in other game books, and that's because Steve Jackson tried to condense a whole lot of stories, the different stories, into this book, and what that resulted in was that these planets are interesting, but you only get to walk around a few entries, a few paragraphs before beaming back up. There are one or two choices to make, but all of them seem very, very short and very interesting, but not really deep enough to engage you on the long run. And I think it would have worked, it could have worked if it was like 3 times this long. So if all these planets were fleshed out much more, without adding any more encounters, just detailing the different encounters much better, that would have been a big step up. However, the physical game book itself would not have allowed such a format. So these books were supposed to be flipped back and forth constantly, so you cannot give a tome to a child's hand and expect them to flip it back and forth. So I guess the way this was envisioned was doomed to fail, and I actually do not recommend you play this one. I definitely don't recommend playing the book version, for sure. You might wish to check this out on Steam. You can grab it for a couple of bucks when it's on sale, and the adaptation is well done. So kudos to Team Man Games. And I really did enjoy a lot of these planets, and as I've said, there is a lot of content that we have not met, including some excellent content as well. But unfortunately, this one is more frustrating than enjoyable overall. Well, any case, we finished it. I hope you enjoyed at least my playthrough of this game book. We have completed Starship Traveller. I thank you all once again for joining me on this adventure, on this journey, and I hope to see you on the next one. Bye bye.